Feature: Trade wars: Causes, consequences, and future prospects. A trade war is a form of economic conflict that typically stems from aggressive protectionist policies. When tariffs are the primary tool used, these conflicts may also be referred to as customs wars, toll wars, or tariff wars. Trade wars occur specifically when both nations engage in the same type of protectionist measures. Causes of global trade wars. Trade wars arise from various economic, political, and strategic motivations, often disrupting global commerce. Persistent trade imbalances prompt countries with deficits to impose tariffs aiming to protect domestic industries and reduce dependence on foreign goods. Accusations of unfair trade practices such as intellectual property theft, currency manipulation, and state subsidies further fuel tensions, leading to retaliatory measures. Political and national security concerns also play a role as governments leverage trade policies in response to geopolitical rivalries or rivalries. Major trade wars in history. One of the earliest recorded trade disputes was the British Navigation Acts 1651 to 1849, which restricted foreign ships from carrying goods to England. In the 19th century, the Opium Wars 1839 to 1860 between Britain and China were partly fueled by trade imbalances resulting in forced trade concessions from China. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act 1930 in the United States worsened the Great Depression by imposing high tariffs on imports. During the Cold War 1947 to 1991, economic conflicts arose between the US and the Soviet Union, with each side restricting trade with the other and their respective allies. The US-Japan trade disputes 1980s to 1990s saw America imposing tariffs on Japanese automobiles and electronics to protect domestic industries. Recent causes of global trade wars. United trade wars against Russia. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, there are many trade sanctions and embargoes that have effectively created many trade conflicts. The sanctions placed on Russia by the US EU, and many other nations, and Russia retaliatory measures have created a very large trade conflict. First, Trump tariffs. Since long before Trump became president in 2017, Trump had promoted tariffs on imports to retaliate against countries he believes are ripping off the United States. In January 2018, Trump imposed tariffs on commodities, notably from China, which covered an estimated 4.1% of US imports. In June 2018, this was extended to the European Union, Canada, and Mexico. The Trump administration separately set and escalated tariffs on goods imported from China, leading to a trade war. The tariffs angered trading partners who implemented retaliatory tariffs on US goods. রিট্যালিয়েটরি শব্দটির অর্থ হচ্ছে প্রতিশোধমূলক জবাব দেয়া. Tariffs on US goods. Second, Trump tariffs. After being re-elected to a second term beginning in 2025, Donald Trump introduced a new wave of trade measures in 2025. The latest tariffs target imports from China, Canada, and Mexico. In February 2025, Trump began announcing tariffs that would apply globally. On 4 March 2025, the Trump administration officially implemented the previously paused tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, while simultaneously increasing existing duties on Chinese goods by an additional 10%. But once again, he pulled back from his trade war with Canada and Mexico. Trump also threatens reciprocal tariffs against other countries struggling or suggesting that here Trump also threatens reciprocal tariffs against other countries, suggesting that the US could tax imported goods at the same level that other countries tax US exports. Trump is using tariff as a vital tool to force other countries, especially his allies and neighbors, to come to a favorable term with his own agenda. Trump is using tariff as a vital tool to force other countries, especially his allies and neighbors, to come to a favorable term with his own agenda. Consequences of global trade wars. Global trade wars have far-reaching consequences affecting both the countries involved and the broader global economy. Higher tariffs raise costs for businesses and consumers, slowing economic growth and reducing trade activity. Industries that rely on complex global supply chains face disruptions, leading to increased production costs and inefficiencies. Import restrictions contribute to inflation by driving up the cost of goods and services, reducing consumer purchasing power, while protectionist policies aim to safeguard domestic industries. They can also backfire by reducing exports and causing job losses in affected sectors. Additionally, trade wars conflicts heighten geopolitical tensions, straining diplomatic relations and hindering international cooperation on critical issues like climate change and security. Market volatility further intensifies as uncertainty over trade policies leads to fluctuations in financial markets, impacting investor confidence and economic stability. Future prospects. Trade wars, while detrimental, can be managed through a combination of diplomatic and economic strategies, strengthening multi multilateral trade agreements and institutions like the WTO provides a framework for dispute resolution and fair trade rules. Bilateral negotiations between involved countries can also lead to targeted agreements that alleviate tensions and establish mutually beneficial trade terms. Diversifying supply chains is crucial for both business and governments, reducing reliance on single markets by expanding trade partnerships and investing in alternative supplies. Furthermore, domestic policies reforms such as reducing trade barriers and fostering technological innovation can contribute to long-term economic stability. Positive impacts of trade wars. While trade wars are generally viewed negatively, they can sometimes offer certain benefits to national economies. Increased tariffs can protect domestic industries from international competition, allowing them to grow and develop. These protection can also lead to job creation by encouraging domestic production and reducing reliance on imported goods. Trade barriers may contribute to a reduction in trade deficits by incentivizing domestic consumption. Furthermore, limited access to foreign products and materials can spur innovation as domestic industries seek to develop their own solutions and invest in new technologies. Negative impacts of trade. Actually, it may be trade war or tariffs. Despite any potential short term gains, trade wars frequently trigger economic downturns and instability. Increased tariffs raise the price of imported goods, leading to inflation and diminished consumer purchasing power. Global supply chains crucial for many industries, are disrupted by trade restrictions, increasing production costs and hindering business operations. Retaliatory measures and escalation are common, with affected countries responding with their own trade barriers, prolonging conflicts and damaging global economic stability. A decline in international trade follows, limiting market access for businesses, restricting growth, and reducing overall economic activity. Balancing trade policies, balancing the potential benefits and drawbacks of trade policies is crucial for sustainable economic growth. This involves negotiating fair and mutually beneficial trade agreements through diplomacy. Diversifying trade partnerships by expanding trade networks reduces reliance on single markets and mitigates economic risks rather than solely relying on the trade restrictions. Governments should invest in enhancing domestic competitiveness through research, development, and infrastructure investment, strengthening global institutions like the WTO is essential for mediating trade disputes and promoting fair trade practices. Trade wars disrupt global supply chains, increase costs for business and consumers, and often lead to retaliatory measures that harm multiple economies. While protectionist policies may benefit certain industries in the short term, they usually result in inefficiencies, reduced competitiveness, and slower economic growth. By adopting realistic and viable measures, nations can ensure a more stable and prosperous global economy while minimizing the negative impacts of trade wars.